Hello everyone, this is my lightning strike presentation. I'd like to give a little bit of background before I go into my peak question. So, whether they intend to or not, parents have an enormous influence on their child's behaviors based on their own goals for the child. These goals, whether they be academically aimed or sports related, are typically based on the parent's own personal beliefs and stereotypes. The main ideologies that can affect a child are the parent's perception of the child's competencies, the value that the achievement holds, and the level of expectation that the child is successful. Depending on how aggressive parents are with pushing these beliefs onto the child can either develop a higher or lower self-image in those areas of achievement. So, my PICO is, in adolescent athletes with anxiety, how does positive and negative parental pressure affect the athlete's pre-competitive anxiety? To give a little background on pre-competitive anxiety, the four main components that parents have influence on anxiety are parental pressure, perceived parental expectations, perceived parental importance, and perceived parental involvement. The presence of parents at a sporting event had the least amount of effect on anxiety as compared to the other three variables. The pressure from parents that push their child to win and base affection off of those results, as well as expecting the child to win every single time, caused the athlete to have a lower motivation and enjoyment in the sport and resulted in a more negative emotional experience. On the other hand, parents that showed a level of understanding and support for the child's performance showed a more positive emotional experience for the athlete. It is important to note that the observable result of pre-competitive anxiety is something called self-handicapping, as explored by Reiska and Yen. This is a tactic used to cope with situations characterized as having uncertainty of successful outcome. The athlete uses self-handicapping to lower their own sports performance in order to protect their own self-image and lower the expectations of the onlookers, such as their parents. Type of anxiety experienced by these athletes before a competition is something called state anxiety. This type of anxiety, plus the self-protective strategy, are detrimental to the athlete's performance, especially in a competition. The prevalence of anxiety among adolescents in general ranges from 2 to 12%. In middle schoolers, it is around 13.2%, and in high schoolers, it ranges from 10 to 12%. Females have a higher prevalence rate of anxiety than males do. Particularly in young athletes, the prevalence of anxiety ranges from 3.7 to 9.5%, and most are prone to developing symptoms of anxiety. Skill level is a high risk factor for anxiety. For anyone who typically believes that they are of a low skill level in a high challenging environment, this can result in anxiety. It is particularly able to be correlated to sports and is likely what most or some athletes experience regardless of parental pressure. Now, you may be wondering what this means for the athletic trainer. It is our job to recognize the signs and symptoms of anxiety as it relates to athletes on a daily basis. These include, or some of them include, unexplainable changes in resting heart rate or muscle tension, and sudden changes in behavior or unexpected mood swings. For preliminary action, implementing mental health screenings into a pre-participation exam can help provide a baseline to compare these anxiety symptoms to. For intervention of an athlete who has already been identified as having anxiety, the athletic trainer can assist the athlete through some different psychosocial interventions. These include, but are not limited to, goal setting, imagery, relaxation strategies, self-talk, and social support. The main things that are important to keep in mind with athletes with anxiety are knowing where to refer them to if necessary, establishing trust with the athlete, and receiving some sort of training on how to handle these types of conversations. In Mann et al., they found that athletic trainers and physical therapists were the most effective in dealing with athletes who are experiencing stress, pressure, anxiety, and family or relationship problems. However, it is important that we know and are aware of and have access to our own athletic care network. It is up to us to educate ourselves on how to support athletes with anxiety and knowing when and where to refer them to if necessary. These are my references.